Hi, my name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Welcome,
Welcome to
welcome,
the
welcome.
studio, gentlemen. And
Hey,
to the
brothers.
show, we got Josh Richard coming in from Santa Monica, California. Welcome, Josh. We've got Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Sir Charles coming in from Tampa, Florida. And we
Yeah,
have Evis Heath, the men of the land from down under, coming in from the outback of Australia. Good evening, gentlemen.
welcome,
Good
welcome.
Hey,
evening.
could
Hey,
you all
Yeah,
hear
Jay.
me?
big side of the pond, my brothers. Yeah, and
I
Jay,
am
sounds like
I
there's
am
a bit of a
actually
farm
going
happening where
to
you're at.
turn it over to Evis Heath in a moment here because I'm out here literally in the middle of it's kind of the outback of Sedona area, and I'm not sure if you guys can hear me or not. If you hear me, give me a thumbs up. But tonight's topic is on active listening, and I'm having a hard time hearing you right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Evis to basically open us up, and I'm going to do my best to be here with you guys and just listen real good tonight. So, Evis, it's all yours, brother.
Interesting, my brother. And a couple of Looney Tunes before we got started there in the green room, brothers. Thanks for joining, as always. And like I said, we're going to have fun on these shows. And our man, Jay the Rothman, it was his birthday this week. And, the celebrations obviously haven't stopped here. And at Real Men Real Talk Live, we're bringing in all the topics. And sometimes it may be just a couple of bloopers that come in. But bear with us. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight as we dive in deep. It's basically a communication part two. We wanted to dive in a little bit deeper last week, and we saw that particular show was action packed with our roosters pulling the rise in the background there. Look, we're talking about active listening, and a big one for me. I've actually deliberately taken myself off the internet airways last couple of days just to really focus and pay attention, you might say, on conversational communication within the conversations that I've come into, particularly the last couple of days. And a couple of those have been really profound for me. And I've found myself not only with the language that I best use, but also really allowing for other people to express their own language and be open to how they share their information through their transmitter and receiver that we call our nervous system. So look, I'm going to dive in a little bit deep about what we actually are and how we actually take in some of that information and how we project it out there into the world to express our song, our universe, our one song. And are you projecting lyrics based on a scratched record, repeating old patterns, or are you ready to release the new release? So my brother's on the other side of the pond. Well, Jay, sort of comes back on connection. If he doesn't, let's piggyback him and let's get him through tonight's show. So Josh Richard on the other side of the pond. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, doing good. It's funny, like when we all talked about the topic for this week and we met on Tuesday, Jeff, you called it. It was like right as we were ending the last show, Jay brought up what he heard in the conversation with his ex-wife and what she was actually saying. And there's often a difference with that. And I think we need to, it requires taking an honest look at ourselves too. What is that filter that we're hearing through? The words that that we actually hear inside our head aren't necessarily always the words that the other person is speaking. And that's because we have this filter. It's like our experience in life, the pain, the past pains or traumas, or, if a new girlfriend touches on something that was similar to something an old girlfriend said that was painful, or you guys had an argument about, that filter might kick in and you might hear it skewed. It's not, we're not so that's when Jay dropped that right at the end last week, we were like, oh man, we gotta explore this, because it's so important, because we don't often hear the actual words that people are saying. We hear it through our filter of our experience and our pain. So
exactly. Oh, I love that, Josh. I love that, Josh. And Jeff, man, you opened up in the meeting during the week about profound communication that you've had just recently.
Oh, I didn't think you guys were going to bring that up.
I had to drop it in, man.
I mean, thanks to this show, I reconnected with a woman I met in Paris 32 years ago. And she watched an episode, one of the replays, and she hit me up with a message last week, and we've never lost touch, but our communication, put it this way, I won't belabor all of this, was very loving. We realized so much about this relationship over 32 years, and she lives in Helsinki, Finland, and I met her when she was 18 years old, and she has grown into a TV star, movie star in Finland, and has really developed a wonderful career. And she came to visit me in New York when she was 22 years old and went to a ton of Broadway plays. And now people are coming to see her. And we've reconnected after the last time we connected was 2005. And we're going to write our story.
Magic.
And we started today, and we're going to write the story and see where it goes. And we have plans to meet in Italy, where I have family, next summer or beforehand.
Nice.
Oh, man, that sounds more than the story to me. That sounds like a beautiful love song, brother.
It's we talked about a lot of it today, and I haven't seen her. This is the first time since 1992 that I've actually seen her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you say, Jeff, write the story, what do you mean by that?
Our story.
Okay, like physically write, like on paper, like.
Yeah, we just came up with the idea. We said we should write our story.
Okay.
And because we're still writing the story after reconnecting.
Mm-hmm.
And what's wonderful about it, guys, is what it's done for me personally. She has opened my heart in a way that hasn't been opened in quite some time. And I expressed all of that to her. No matter what happens, she lives in Helsinki, I live in Nashville, but she opened my heart in a whole new way. And the cool thing about it is that it was so safe to express to her a lot of things today, and how she does that, for me. I mean, and that big smile, and it's just she's a wonderful, wonderful person, and now she's a rock star. But
so when you say open your heart, Jeff, why did she open that heart that way now, and why couldn't someone else access that?
Oh, so there are some people. I have other people in my life who do that in relationships, but this is different for me personally. I don't know, we're friends, but it was just something that opened up my heart to another level. Let's put it that way. To another level. And I expressed all of that to her today, and she smiled and said, wow, I really needed this conversation today. I hope she doesn't watch this. But,
well, you sending her those emails. You know what I wanted to say? Is it interesting where at times, have you ever seen it where that the connection or the love seems to be, one person always seems to be a little bit more into it than the next? It seems like, Jeff, like you guys are not saying that you're at that connection, but maybe you're meeting at that intersection where it's not going to be one way and then the other person catches up, and then, you know, why is that? Why do we play that game at times?
Well, one of the things I've learned over the years, and which is a challenging thing to live by, is years ago when I had an amazing soul connection with my friend Alexandra, who has watched this show, and we connected over 20 years ago, and she was involved with a guy, and I was just starting with this work, and my therapist, mentor, teacher, Robert Baker, asked me, he said, Jeff, can you have the relationship that is? And I looked at him and I had no clue what he meant. And then he started to teach me about what the relationship that is, which is what it is. And I've always learned that along the way, that I can have all of my feelings about how I feel for someone and express them like I did with Maria today. These are the feelings I have. This is what's coming up. All of this, and share it openly.
Mm-hmm.
But and feel safe doing that, not with her, but in myself, and say, and she went, wow, and she expressed how she feels, but we have to have the relationship that is in the moment. So if we could all just, instead of projecting onto what this relationship should be right now, and then go along with it moment by moment, minute by minute, and allow the relationship to develop into the relationship that it is going to be, based upon the connection, or as Mary just said, a soul connection. And what I've realized is that we've all had soul connections with people in our heart space. And that's what I'm realizing. And I told Maria today, we have this wonderful soul connection that's endured for 32 years.
Wow.
And that's what it is. But then with freedom of choice, we can act on that soul connection as adults and create the relationship that is based upon where I am in my life and based upon where she is in her life, by getting back to communication, by fully having an open communication. What's going on with your life? What do you need? What's going on with my life? Here's where we are. Okay, we're over this. We're adults. We're in it. So what kind of relationship do we want? The most important thing to do is to define the relationship and then allow the relationship to grow, and not allow our wounded little kids to get involved, projecting into what we think the relationship should be, and just enjoy what it is.
Powerful, Jeff. Powerful, brother.
And communicate. And so it comes back to how we communicate with another. It really, and then what we're all doing now is, as we're going deeper within, realizing our connections with people, opening up and communicating our feelings. Like, here's 52 cards and laying them open face up on the table, and this is where I'm at. And then the other person communicates where they are, and then you go, okay, so look, we're reconnecting and having this relationship. We'll define this relationship as we move along. Why? Because we are honoring and cherishing the soul connection that we have.
Oh, it's beautiful, my brother. And Jeff, I mean, just a quick question, brother. I mean, you say after so many years, and Mary made a good point out there, it was all timing. It's all timing. You know, we as men, we definitely do. We share similar words as the beloved feminine. And we just seem to not speak the same language sometimes. I know for myself, man, in past relationships, I may not have been emotionally available. And like you said, because my father wasn't emotionally available that I saw as a kid from my parents' behaviors. So what do you feel coming from a male perspective that could give, a lot of our female audience out there a good point to understand how a male may communicate within a relationship that she may be taking it the wrong way?
I hear what you're saying, Evis. Yeah, for sure.
Because for example, Jeff, all right, I may have avoided conflict at some times, but only because it wasn't the right space in that point of time to actually talk and transmit the information. So we may call it a cool-off period. But to the feminine, it may have looked like avoidance. It may have looked like ignorance. It may have looked like you not wanting to listen to me. So just on that example, my brother, what do you feel, obviously with the timing that you've gone through at the moment, but is it good, sort of words of wisdom that you could give to our audience out there in regards to that, on balancing those feminine and masculine energies?
You know what a lot of guys do? A lot of guys pounce.
How so? What do you mean by that?
With women, we might see a woman or somebody who we really like, and we pounce. We're guys. I see that woman, that's the woman I like, or that's the person I like, or whatever it is, and we'll go for it, and we'll pounce on it with our maybe an overbearing masculine energy, which means we're making it about us as opposed to taking into account that other person. So we pounce. I think that's where breathing comes in, and chilling a little bit and taking a step back and assess our feelings first. What am I feeling? What's going on here? But I think the most important thing is to do, and I've gone so far beyond this, it doesn't matter to me anymore, is that if I see someone, I like them, I'm going to tell them I like them from my heart space in a neutrality, that because it's always important to remember that it's not our job, it's not our responsibility how someone takes what we say. If we're coming from our heart space with love, it's not up to us. So I think a lot of guys go into the narcissism of self, saying, wow, if I really go out there and speak my truth or tell this person that I dig them, that I like them, and all that stuff, well, what is she going to do? And a guy will stop right there because they're projecting into the other person or projecting onto the other person. And this goes with communication with anybody. So we're coming from a heart space of and what's really important is to, like what I did with Maria, can I share something with you? Would you be open for me to share something with you right now about my feelings and stuff like that? So you're inviting that person right then and there and saying, if not, it's cool, but I'd really like to share something with you right now. Are you open to hear it? And if they say yes, great. No. That's a way that we can do it effectively, as and don't pounce on it.
I love that, brother.
Jump in there.
What's that, Charles?
What are you thinking?
What came up for me when I did a beautiful exercise one time, and it exposed a lot of what I was communicating verbally to the world. What I did was, it was for like a month. I asked myself, behind everything I said, what's my motivation?
Mm.
And I'd ask myself, what, I just blurt something. I go through life just, blurting things out and living our lives and doing what we do. And I'd say something and I was like, wow, what's my motivation? And when I started to explore my motivation, it started to uncover some of my old pain, some of my old stories, some of my old things. And then a really curious thing happened was I started asking the same question when people would speak to me. What's their motivation?
Mm.
What are they communicating to me? What hurts and pains are, and it was like the whole world became as clear as glass. It was like I could see behind everyone's comments and what that meant and the pains that they were trying to cover up or to, just, basically I could see everything crystal clear, as well as in myself, and all of my things started to, so it was an amazing experience to go through for that month. What's my motivation? And it really just exposed all of the things that I was subconsciously communicating and what others are subconsciously communicating to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy. It was a really fun experiment.
It's powerful, man.
Yeah.
Powerful. Thanks for sharing that, Josh.
Yeah.
And what about our brother Charles, man? Like you're sitting back there, man.
Yeah, the other day I was thinking. I mean, I think that people when they come together, they have to understand and look at it from: are we ready for a true and honest situation, right? And what I mean by that is that are we at the same levels per se? Are we ready to love at the same time? Are we ready to give our time at the same time, right? There's some people, sometimes you meet them and they don't want that. It's hard. Like you meet a woman or a man or whatever it is, and they're so busy into work, right? And you're fighting for that time. Are we going to be able to give each other and put those things to the side? Are we going to be able to invest in each other in the same way, right? Are we going to be able to cook dinner at your house, at my house? Are we going to be able to share family stories or go into depth into our past and understand each other at the same time? So looking for that mature love, and it doesn't have to be per se based on age, but based on maturity, as far as we're ready to both do this the right way at the right time and not play any games, and also realize and say to each other, listen, I want this to last for a long time. I'm not looking to date for another month or 3 months or a year. That my investment into you is an investment into future, and that we're not looking to per se get, hopefully it'll lead to more, right? Because I think that's also an issue too as well. A lot of times people just date to date, and and especially in LA, I've lived in LA, you date to date. So if you're not looking to just date to date, then it's best that we understand that and get some of these things out the way. I think people in communication, you really need to dig down deep. Forget about the looks, forget about all the attraction right up front. What do you want? What am I expecting from you? What do you expect from me? Where are we going to go with this? At the end of the day, it's not bad if it's almost like a job interview, right? To be honest with you, because this is our hearts that not only are we playing with one person's heart, we're playing with another person's hearts and emotions. So we have to really get to that point where we agree and understand, look at the goals, the priorities, and the destination. And if that isn't adding all up, I believe that we have to step away and go our separate ways.
Powerful, Charles.
Yeah, love
powerful, brother.
Yep. What do you want is always a key question.
And what do we want? And we touched on it last week too. I mean, knowing what we want. Because if we don't know what we want, we're not going to be able to communicate that.
Yeah. And I think we sort of touched on that last week in regards to going into relationships based on these old programs And, Mary actually asked a nice question out there. And thanks, guys. There's a few of you tuning in out there about how would you know someone is active listening?
If
Jeff.
When we're speaking and we're finished, see what their response or reaction is to it. That's really important. Just like see what they're. It's a thing. It goes back to what we say, what we communicate. We're not responsible for how another hears it, receives it, doesn't hear it, and doesn't receive it.
Say that again, Jeff.
When we communicate with somebody after we, as what Charles said was so great. It's what to sum it up. It was like, can we be two adults here? Can we actually open our hearts up as adults and have an adult conversation as opposed to two wounded little kids trying, thinking and trying and we'll date with 3 months, and then after we realize, wow, we never wanted the same thing anyway. So it's about opening up as an adult, and then when we've communicated to someone, we're not responsible for what they hear through their filter, what they don't hear, what they have heard, what they might have heard. So after we do communicate, you just wait and see what their response is, or a reaction to what we said. Quite possibly the reaction was through a filter of something. Don't tell me that you care about me right now. I'm not ready for that. And you're like, okay. And then you can go, and what's coming up for you right now? What did you hear when I communicated to you that I wanted to know what you wanted in a relationship? And then you get a reaction about it. Then they probably heard it through some sort of filter or wounding or programming or conditioning, and it's all about that reaction that comes back. Then it's up to us to see that and to go, okay, what do you need right now? And that's it's all about inviting. It's all about in conversations, all about coming from your heart with love and inviting and knowing what you need and what you want.
Exactly.
I love that.
And you brought up a good point too, Jeff. And even on the other side of it, no one can make you feel a certain way.
Exactly.
We have to accept that invitation. Someone can, of course, say something that might trigger us or, touch on a sensitive area that we have, but nobody outside of us can actually make us feel a certain way. We have to accept that. And that's our responsibility. So yeah, it's a two-way street. It's like watching and observing them. And of course, coming from loving kindness and, saying things in the sort of I scenario, this is how things, something that you said made me feel. We're all entitled to our feelings. Nobody can argue with a feeling, but we so often get into defense and get into, that back and forth in communicating when we're reacting, not responding, like Evis talks about. So yeah, it's like, but nobody can make us feel anything. But coming from that heart space, you can't go wrong.
Yep.
If you're communicating from your heart and how things make you feel, both good and bad, it's like, and I'm not just talking about arguments. I'm talking about how someone makes you feel in general. If you let them know how you feel, we're all entitled to that.
Yep. And it's not our, like I've said a couple of times, it's not our responsibility how a person might be interpreting what we're saying. It's not our responsibility if we're being transparent, authentic, adult, and open and honest with our cards laid up on the table. and coming from the place of love, it's not our responsibility how another person responds or reacts through their filters and what they think they're hearing. Like Jay last week at the end with his ex-wife, and what she said and what I heard, and then he explained it through the filters that he heard it from. That's how we know if someone is actually listening and hearing what we're saying, and then what we know we said, through our honesty, through our truth, through our heart space, what we know we said in a loving way, and then we hear the reaction, then we'll know what filters and the filters they heard it through.
Mm.
And
100%, Jeff.
Donna, I don't know if you saw Donna's question. Maybe we could all kind of chime in on. I think we've got four opinions, Donna, that we could probably give you an opinion.
What was Donna's question again?
What was her question, Charles?
I've dealt with a man that tells me I'm the whole package, but they can't commit. And why is that? I feel that they are so afraid of committing to one person, they're going to miss out on something. I just don't get it. So I'm sure each one of us can give her. I'll shoot first. I'll say, Don, I'm not sure it could be a few different things. One could be they have something else going on, Donna, that holds them back from committing fully to you. Could be another relationship. It could be finance. It could be something within inside of them. But it obviously they see your value and see your worth. But that's something that you just may want to move on with. Obviously you have. And what do you guys think? Anything on that?
Yeah, Charles, I think too, man, the whole commitment thing can really go back to those old programs again. It's that fear of commitment, because at the end of the day, we as human beings, we don't want to be hurt. There may have been a fear of commitment from our old man. They didn't want to commit to maybe our mum, and we don't want to see that within our own lives. So we don't want to experience that pain that we may have felt in a previous relationship. But to me, as I've always discussed on our shows on Real Men Real Talk Live, it's our fear of committing to ourselves.
Bingo.
Let me just say that again, Jeff. It's our fear of committing to ourselves. So if we can't commit to ourselves within our life, whether that is in relationships, whether that is in, trying to embody our highest possible version, whether that's trying to, just be, like I said, that highest version in life, then there's no way we're going to make commitment to anything else. And to me, that is really where it's at. It's that fear of commitment in self. What about you, Jeff?
Actually, you just stole my thunder, Evis. So I think go ahead, Josh. I'll go last.
All right. Well, on her comment, yeah, it's tough too, because here's another angle, is that guys we get so omni-focused sometimes, and I'm guilty of it too. And you can get so focused in a career or a path or something that you are trying to achieve or working on, that it's easy to forget to be. Like we've talked about, just being and enjoying another person and a relationship. And so sometimes I think maybe because you women are way better at multitasking than we are. So I think sometimes too, we can get caught in what we're doing and what we're creating and what we're building. And that can create that disconnect in a relationship where the woman might be feeling more into it or more involved than the guy is. So I'll just offer up that angle as a possibility as well.
Well, she said, I agree, Evis, but then just be honest. And I would say on both ends.
Yeah.
It's okay if you feel you're not ready or you can't fulfill something in a relationship, it's okay to walk away. Mm-hmm. It's okay to say, hey, you know what, man, I'm not ready. I don't want to take you down this journey. because I'm not where I should be. Or if I'm that person, it's okay to say, hey, listen, there's some things inside of me that I really need to figure out, and I don't want to bring you down this journey with me right now, because you don't deserve what may come, because there's a lot of people, man, who come with some serious stuff, and you're going to end up getting dragged in some things that you just you may not be ready for,
right?
And fear on both sides.
But doesn't that come down to, Charles, again, right back to being an adult?
Yeah.
Right. What you said before, it was like being an adult, being committed to ourselves, being honest with ourselves, and coming at the relationship as adults, as you said earlier. This is where I'm at, and this is who I am in the moment. This is where my life is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's really coming from a place of being an adult in your heart space. Our adult self lives in our heart space, and allowing that to just to be where it is. It's the whole thing. The whole communication thing is got to come from us being in our heart space as adults. And then, of course, knowing ourselves, knowing what we need, knowing what we want. But I want to touch on what Eva said earlier about going in and making the commitment to ourselves. And when we're connecting with someone, it doesn't matter if it's a lover, it's a friend. It is about, if it's someone new, you're forming a new relationship. So we have to move the narcissism out, because somebody says, can't you commit to me? We're never committing to anyone else. The only person we're committing to is us. So if we're adults and we go into a relationship and we say, I like you. In any relationship, it could be a business relationship, a personal relationship. If it's a new relationship and we're going into this relationship, as Charles said earlier, we lay our cards on the table as adults, and then we look at it, and then we say, we have to put the relationship, and then we define that relationship in that moment, and then what we're committing to is the growth of the relationship. We're not committing to another person. We can't do that. Okay, that's where the narcissism, that's where the wounded child comes in. That's what the wounded child, the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old, wants mommy and daddy to do. Commit to them, which they're supposed to do. So when as adults, what we're committing to is the growth of the relationship. Then we define that relationship, because we're two unique individuals, adults on either side, opening our hearts, being transparent, being honest, coming from our heart space in a loving way. And then if both agree, yes, let's explore the creation of this relationship, what we're committing to is the creation and growth of the relationship that is in the middle. If we can look at ourselves as the relationship's a riverbank, and two unique, individuated adults coming in with their hearts open, transparent, authentic, speaking their truth, honest, they're the riverbank holding the relationship in the middle and watching it grow through the commitment of the growth of the relationship.
And I'm going to real quick to somebody I know, I'm not going to mention their names, and I told them the same thing too as well, that at their stage, I really believe they need to open up their minds and their hearts, and they need to do some traveling, right? Because this particular person, and they're watching right now, they don't travel. They're very successful in what they do, but they stay right in their hometown taking care of grandkids. Nothing wrong with that. But at times you may need to, what's right around in your little circle may not be what you need, right? Sometimes you got to go take a trip somewhere. Sometimes you got to just be ready to run, to live, to breathe. And like, and as they say, we're not teenagers anymore, right? So you may end up meeting the same type of egg in that little basket. So be open to travel and doing things different and living your life. And I think you'll attract something that, on that journey, that will bump right into you, and they'll have the same interest, and you won't keep, cracking the same egg. So,
and
like that.
it's
Mr.
loving
Charles.
yourself enough to, I mean, you nailed it, Charles. It's loving yourself enough to say no.
Yeah.
This is what I need, and I'm worth it, and this is important for me to explore myself, my joy, my existence in this world, and having the power to say no. And it kind of answers to Mary's question. I mean, yeah, I think it was Mary's question earlier about, Josh, what do you do when they're playing games? It's the power in no, and that boundary, and loving ourselves enough to say no. This isn't what I want to do, and trusting. And I think so many of us are afraid too of being alone, especially as we get older. We don't have time on our side like we did when we were in our 20s and felt like we had all the time in the world. As we get older, we start to feel the clock, and I think that does stuff to us. It might make us settle, or it might make us, and so being able to be firm in you and say, no, this is what I need, or no, like you guys did the episode, we are what we tolerate. I don't tolerate this. I won't stand for games, and I won't stand for these things. And I love myself enough to travel and be alone. And that might be scary. And I think, there's a lot of fear in that too. And being with oneself, wow, that's, if you haven't done that before, that could be a terrifying thing, but you can do it, and you can get through it, and you learn so much about yourself by committing to you, and committing to you first, like Jeff was talking about, or we're all talking about. The love of self comes first, and then we can enter into something else then it's a partnership of joy and expression and experiencing life. And it's not, from need or lack or any fears. It's not like a fear-based relationship that we're trying to stay out of something. We're just entering into something because that person's beautiful, coming from the heart space.
Love it, Josh.
Yeah.
Love it, brothers. Now, we're sort of going back deep into the relationship side of things, and we opened up this topic tonight about active listening. I myself, I actually had a listen to The Art of Listening by just had a quick mind blink there. Let me get back to you. But The Art of Listening, and it's by an Indian guy. Do you know that one, Jeff? The Art of Listening?
No.
That's it. Okay, so by Krishnamurti. Now, if you get a chance out there, our audience, if you get a chance to listen to The Art of Listening, he actually goes into the deeper idea of just listening, just being present, not even looking to fix something. But do you have that ability just to observe and be at the 0 point and just listen? It is a skill. It is a craft. It is something that we need to learn again as a human species. Man, I've come into communications this week, and I've seen people do this one right in front of me. I've seen people looking away when I'm trying to talk to them. The nervous system is out of whack, man. Now, in my culture, and I said this in a video this morning, to look in the eyes during conversation is actually disrespectful. But if you ask many people around the world, that is a sign of respect. So are we listening? And what are some of the skills or exercises do you think that we could practice in our daily life to maybe turn down the volume of some of those sabotaging thoughts, emotions, and feelings to actually get in line and in balance to actually start listening to people within conversation. What do you reckon on that, Sir Charles?
No, I think you're right. I think that I think at times people are so fast to jump into something. That word girlfriend or boyfriend is thrown around so fast. I mean, we see it even on social media, right? How many times have we seen someone we know that that relationship status goes from single to in a relationship? 6 weeks later, it goes back to single. 3 weeks later, in a relationship. I've seen it time and time again. We throw that word around. I think that at times when you're getting to know someone, there's nothing wrong with getting to know someone, listening, trying to make sure that what they're saying is something that resonates with you in every way, and vice versa. We don't have to rush to say we're in a relationship. We don't have to rush to say we're enjoying each other. We're going to be loyal friends to each other, meaning that during this time, I'm not going to be sleeping with 3 other women. You're not going to be sleeping with 3 other men. That we're going to take that time to invest in each other, to become hopefully good friends, because that's where we need to start. And then hopefully more than that. And in that time, I want to look. I want to listen. I want to observe. I want to feel your passion. I want to understand your energy. I believe in that ultimate beautiful love where, man, you never have to even have an argument. I believe that. Why? Because if that respect level is there for each other, then every day you wake up to each other as if it was the first time you ever met. And you don't ever have to break that. You don't ever have to tarnish that feeling. I do believe it. And a mature place, a mature love.
Nice, brother.
On the head,
man. And Josh, what are some of the things, tips and tricks you could give to our audience out there to really get into and improve active listening in conversation, in relationships, in communication?
Totally. Active listening is tough. I think we get so caught in our thoughts, and I've done it too, where I'm in the middle of a conversation. Somebody says something that triggers something when I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. And then I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. And then I realize that I haven't listened to what they're saying at all. And it's a skill. And I think we can so easily get caught in our own minds and caught up in our own thoughts that we forget we're talking to someone. And so yeah, it is a skill, and it's like a muscle. It's like anything that if we're not used to it, it's a little awkward at first, and it gets easier and it gets better, and it's a practice too. I still too catch my mind wandering in the middle of a conversation, and I got to bring it back. You got to wrestle that. Dr. Joe Dispenza refers to it as a wild horse. It's like taming the wild horse. We have to sort of tame the mind when it wants to wander and run free and romp around and act like an animal and go crazy. You got to bring it back. And so sometimes it is just that awareness in a conversation of, oh shit, I wandered. What are they saying right now? What is this person communicating to me? Yeah, I got it. It's a practice. I get caught too on busy days. And I'm problem solving, figuring a lot of things out. I wander, and I got to remember that I am here in a conversation with somebody right now, and they're telling me something they're speaking for a reason. We all speak for a reason. So it's coming from the place of love.
Love that, Josh. And what about you, Jeff?
Watch Real Men, Real Talk live, because when you guys speak, my undivided attention is on all of you guys. It's amazing. I learned, like I always say, I learned something new on this show every single week. And I hear you guys, and my undivided attention is listening to what everybody says. And it's so amazing time. So watch Real Men, Real Talk live and listen to what we have to say. because I do. It's amazing. There's a great line in Pulp Fiction when Uma Thurman and John Travolta's character get together and go into that restaurant. And they do the dance and win the contest. And she looks to Vincent Vega and says, I have a question for you. When someone else is speaking, do you listen or are you waiting to speak? And he was honest, and he said, if you remember John Travolta, he said, I'm waiting to speak.
Yeah.
So if we can turn it back on us when someone else is speaking, are we listening or are we waiting to speak? I'm pretty guilty at times for waiting to speak, but not on Real Men, Real Talk Live. But that's a good tool to use when someone is speaking to you. Are you listening? Are you closing your eyes? Are you opening your heart, taking in what that person is saying? Or are you waiting to speak? Another tool that you could use is to practice it. If you're in a relationship, let's practice this. I'm going to say something to you, and then my question is going to be, so what did you hear that I said? What did you hear that I just said? And that's another tool that if in your relationship with someone and you don't think they're here listening, or you don't think they're listening, stop and say, can we do this little exercise? It's a great exercise to do. And then you'll both see, like, wow, what I heard you say, or is this, and then you'll see where your filters are. You'll see if you were listening, and then you'll ask them, wow, this is the way I heard it. This is what I heard. Just going back to Jay last week, what he heard and what his wife really said were two totally different things. So those are two tools that you could use to open up communication, and then also seeing where you are. You know, Charles just spoke. What did I hear? What did I really hear? Did I hear what Charles said? Or did I hear it through my filters of what I think he said based upon my program conditioning or whatever?
And I think I listen because it helps you rule out. It helps you pull in. It helps you understand who you're dealing with, and I think that's important, right? Because the more you as Alan Watts said, the more you talk, all you have is your own thoughts, right? So I mean, I like to sit back and listen because you can get a lot out of what people say, and you might end up cutting conversation short because I've heard enough. But if you keep talking, then you're not hearing what that person says. You're missing out on the essence of what really is in that person's heart.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Love that.
Beautiful, brothers. We're diving in deep, as always, on Real Men Real Talk Live. And unfortunately, our brother Jay Roth, the man, couldn't join us on his birthday week. Weeks. But look, I think we've successfully brought him along for the show tonight. We're just coming up onto the hour. And look, I guess wrapping it up, my brothers, before we wrap up, as always, our audience out there on Real Men Real Talk Live, look, we couldn't do this without you. So we really appreciate you for your support. And so please make sure that you either get to the YouTube page, make sure you subscribe, come on here on Facebook, get on the page, like, share, if it's adding value to your life or anyone that you know. Because we're in here, we're opening up our hearts to give you an opportunity to help you maybe through your life or one of those loved ones through their lives. So obviously, the more that you share, the more care that gets out onto this planet, and hopefully we can bring it back to that beautiful vibration that we all want to see as a collective. So on that note, my brothers, I guess wrapping it up, as Jay Roth the man would say, 2 minutes each. Josh Richer, fire away, my brother.
Beautiful. And just everything today, I think it's just brought me back to the reminder to come from love. You know, Charles, what you're saying, listen, because you're coming from love. You're coming from understanding. You're coming from a place where you want to not just speak, not just throw out words, not just say what you have to say, but to love our fellow man and, you know, brothers and sisters out there. To come from a place of love is you can't go wrong. It will help you to listen. It will help you to understand. It will help you to feel compassion for what they're saying. It will help you to see the pain behind their words potentially, and to meet them with compassion. So yeah, I guess my closing is just come from love and you can't go wrong.
Love that, brother. Mr. Charles Maddox, my brother, piggyback on our brother Josh Richer there, and what's the takeaway you can give out to our beautiful audience out there tonight, my brother?
I would say look in.
Oh, terrible time to
That's
see Charles.
communication.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. Let's do a spin, Jeff and Son. Great remix here, brothers.
Well, in our pre-production meeting on Tuesday, we started talking about intimate. Well, hold on. Oh wait.
Driving, Sir Charles, driving, brother.
I would say that we have to, number one, really look inside of ourselves to understand, number one, where we are at. You know, we may ask for this amazing thing to come our way, but are we seriously ready for that amazing thing to come that way? Are we ready to change and adapt so that when that thing comes our way, that we are the best we are in that situation? Don't rush. Take your time. Friends, people have lost the fact that, number one, you have to be best friends. That takes time to get to know each other, the ins and outs. You know, if that person snores in the middle of the night, if you don't like that, and you know, that person, next thing you know, is going to be sleeping in the next room, right? If they leave the toilet seat up, all those are things that really have to take time to see and to be adjusted to, and then take time to really listen, to understand, and have the goals that are long-term goals. Two can't look at each other in the face and say, hey, listen, baby, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Then honestly, you might be with the wrong person, because they might just want to date for 6 months. Because we have to realize that we don't want to be hurt. And when we say to each other, hey, listen, I don't want to be hurt. I want something that lasts, and I don't want to get hurt. And I don't want to hurt you. That's the mature love that we're looking for.
Love that, Charles. Sir Charles, diving in, my brother.
And last thing, any wounded sheep out there, I'll be happy to let you take me to dinner and buy me nice gifts. All right.
Brother, this is Jeff Fonzano, my man.
Like I was saying earlier, we were talking in our pre-production meeting on Tuesday about intimacy. And what I really feel is we all say we want intimacy in our life. It's how open we are in our communication. Communication is the beginning of intimacy. Opening our heart space to listen and speak in balance leads to a greater depth of intimacy. But we come together as adults and we have to open our hearts to communicate. We have to know that what we're hearing is through our filters. But it's about keeping our heart open. As Josh says, it always comes down, everything comes down to love. Love of self, knowing what our needs, knowing what is important to us, like Charles says, this is important to me, and beginning to open our hearts to begin an open, honest lane of communication with someone, and creating this safe space to communicate by always inviting another to communicate. But what it comes down to is through that loving communication, we're opening a doorway into a greater depth of intimacy that we all want. And that's what it really comes down to, for me, is how much intimacy do we want in this relationship, and then define intimacy, of course, but it's and that's on many levels. So really it comes down to that, and that's the doorway that opens up. Communication is the doorway. Open, honest, loving communication is the doorway that opens our hearts to how deeply intimate we want to be with someone in a relationship.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, Jeff. And I really think you just opened up next week's show possibility with intimacy, because it's definitely one that seems to come up in a lot of our conversations on that Real Men, Real Talk Live. And as always, again, our audience out there, if you've got any ideas about what you want to hear us talk about on here at Real Men, Real Talk, pop them down in the comments down below also. And as I mentioned, remember to press like, subscribe, and share out with your family, your friends. But as Jay Roth, the man, says, and I'm going to try and break it down like Jay, I've been getting downloads all week, and I deliberately put myself off these social media airways to dive in about my communication skills, to dive in about my listening skills. You know, we're in this beautiful energy at the moment, and I keep talking about what's happening up above affects us down below, talking about up in the stars, because each and every one of us, we're a star. We are star dust to the very molecules. You know, we're in a prenuptial lunar eclipse again. It's happening in Capricorn. Can you believe it? We've still got these energies trying to wash away the old you. It's the old me. We've got an opportunity to let go and release some of that old stuff to birth the new you, to ascend, to recharge, to access higher intelligence, to access higher emotional intelligence. You know, I've improved my listening skills over the years through awareness. I've been practicing stillness. You see me out in nature. I've been balancing my audio, man. My balance in my bass, my treble, it was out of whack go back 5 years ago. We have this beautiful body. I look at it as my boombox, as my little audio studio. So when we're able to let go some of those thoughts, emotions, feelings that to so many people at the moment are so deafening, we forget to listen. We forget to be able to bring those right relationships, communications, and conversations into our lives. So I'm going to ask you, brothers and sisters, are you going within? Because it's you that is the universe. You're the one verse. You're your one song. These emotions, this energy, this inner chi, like I said, it's loud, man. We've got all of these distractions, all of this noise. As you music lovers out there, we might have too much music in a song. We might have too much noise. We try and balance it out. Do a sound check. Ask yourself, is your song out here reality? Is that the song you want to hear? Or is it time to make the new release? I used to love when my star used to come out, my favorite pop star, and provide the new release, the new hot track. Did that excite you? And I was pumped. So when that new release would come out, I knew it was where they were in their life, in their time. So I'm going to motivate, I'm going to ask you, the track that you're listening to, is it on high definition? Are you going to start bringing your super surround You're going to start pumping your voice box to the E drum so we can heal and toe dance. And maybe, just maybe then, if you listen closely, my brothers and sisters, you may hear your heart beat. It's not time for another cowboy sad song. This is a love song. So on those music notes, my brothers and sisters, again, thank you. Unfortunately, we couldn't have our Jay Roth, the man, in tonight. But drop down your comments down below. Make sure you share it out into your family and friends. And until next week's show on a Real Men, Real Talk Live, my brothers across the pond, thanks for joining in, brothers.
See you, everybody.
Damn.
Had to dive in, brothers.
We are still live.
We're still live.
Jay,
Hey, and we're back.
We're back.